Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2003 movie titled The Italian Job. Please be advised that there are spoilers ahead. In the opening scene we are introduced to John Bridger, recently released from prison, calling his daughter Stella Wall from Venice, Italy. He mentions that he wants to send her a gift, but she's cautious and asks if he has a receipt due to his history of theft. Interrupting their conversation, John joins Charlie and four other team members, Left Ear, Handsome Rob, and Steve Roselli. Their target is a safe containing $35 million in gold bars beneath a waterfront house. The team strategically places a bomb beneath the safe, which causes it to fall into the water. They then successfully crack the safe underwater. Following an exciting speedboat chase involving the police and security personnel, they escape. Meanwhile, Handsome Rob creates a distraction that allows Charlie and John to steal the gold from the underwater safe. After their successful heist, the team meets on a snow-covered mountain. John admires Charlie for flawlessly planning the operation. They discuss how they plan to spend their portion of the spoils and share a few laughs before parting ways. However, as they cross a bridge, some of Steve's men betray them, disrupting their path. Steve demands that Handsome Rob release the steering wheel while pointing a gun at him. Steve's men begin to unload the gold from the bus. Steve turns his gun on John, who is trying to exit the vehicle. John reminds him that they'll find him, but Steve shoots him immediately. Left Ear quickly drives to escape, but the bus falls off the bridge and into the cold, icy river. Steve persists in firing to ensure their demise. Fortunately, they manage to escape to the riverbank, where Charlie mourns over the death of his mentor. Meanwhile, Stella Richards has taken a lock-picking job for the police and has just completed the task, earning praise for her skill. Returning to her office, she encounters Charlie Croker, who informs her that he has located Steve and wants to retrieve the stolen gold. However, Stella declines Charlie's proposal, asserting she is not a thief like her father. Later that night, Stella has a change of heart and contacts Charlie, stating that she wants to witness the look on Steve's face when they steal the gold back and agrees to join the team. In the morning, Charlie introduces the team to Stella and then reveals the team's new identities to the members. Following this, the crew strategizes the heist, commencing with surveillance of Steve's property and devising a plan to control the traffic. Eventually, they decide to take the first step. They plan to go inside Steve's house with Stella as the spy, since she is the only one Steve doesn't recognize. Meanwhile, Steve is still attempting to sell the gold bars to Yevon, a money launderer. During their meeting, Yevon purchases 2 bars of gold and assures Steve that he will acquire more in the future. Meanwhile, the team is closely monitoring Steve as they refine their strategy. They decide to infiltrate Steve's mansion, disguised as repairmen, with Rob and Lyle obtaining a work bus and uniform from a repair company. Rob persuades one of the repair women to bring her uniform along in the bus. He convinces her to spend the night with him. In the following morning, he stealthily steals her uniform and copies the bus key. They swiftly provided Stella with the uniform and key, enabling her to assume the role of the cable lady. Lefty disrupts the electrical system of Steven's mansion, causing a problem with Steve's TV cable, which causes him to call the repair shop for help. However, the team had already accessed his cell phone and responded to his call. Stella, donning a hidden camera on her chest, guided the bus to Steve's location, where his aggressive dogs greeted her. Steve eventually introduced himself to her, and as they entered the house, he bragged about his possessions and the size of his TV. Using the camera, they obtained the blueprint of the house while Stella searched for the location of the safe. Steve also attempts to flirt with Stella and asks her out on a date, which she initially refuses but later accepts after some persuasion. After Stella's encounter with Steve, she felt restless and unsettled about meeting her father's killer. Charlie met up with her to offer encouragement, and the team returned to test out the Mini Cooper they intend to transport the gold, using metal weights to simulate its expected weight. They asked Stella to test the car, but soon realized it couldn't hold the required amount of gold. Rob suggested bringing Wrench, who agreed to do the job for $10,000. Meanwhile, Lyle had hacked into the traffic system and was excited to show off his work to Charlie, causing chaos on the roads by changing the traffic lights at will. Charlie was impressed with Lyle's skill. Meanwhile, Lefty worked on his explosive expertise. Once Wrench finished working on the cars, they took them for a test drive and were thrilled with the improvements. Later on, Steve visits Yvonne to exchange more gold bars for cash. While they are talking, Yvonne brings up the topic of a gold heist in Venice, which grabs Steve's attention. Steve becomes furious and demands to know who Yvonne has told about the gold. When Yvonne insists that he hasn't told anyone, Steve violently pushes him onto his desk and kills him with a shot. Minutes later, Yvonne's cousin, Mashka, the leader of a Ukrainian mafia gang, walks in and is shocked when he finds him dead. Afterwards, Charlie takes Lefty to buy explosive supplies from Skinny Pete, an arms dealer. On their way, Charlie warns Lefty not to stare at Skinny Pete. However, as they approach Skinny Pete, Lefty becomes nervous and speechless upon realizing that Skinny Pete is not physically thin. Skinny Pete mentions the Venice gold bars, but Charlie tells him they did not come to discuss that. Subsequently, they agreed to purchase explosive devices from him. After that, the Ukrainian mafia, who was already on the hunt for Yvonne's killer, brought in one of Yvonne's workers for questioning to gather information. The worker revealed that a big tattooed man with long black hair had inquired about the gold bars. The mafia boss quickly orders his team to visit Skinny Pete. Once they arrive, Mashka interrogates Skinny Pete about his knowledge of the gold bars and involvement in Yvonne's death. Meanwhile, Charlie and the team are preparing to proceed with their plan. Lyle watches Steve's movements, and eventually, Steve leaves in his car to meet Stella for their date. Upon arrival, Charlie realizes that Steve's neighbor is throwing a party, and they won't be able to use explosives, so they have to cancel the plan. At this point, Stella has no choice but to meet Steve for her date at the restaurant. Steve compliments Stella on her job and tells her she is too beautiful. As they continue to talk, Steve asks Stella to come with him to his place, but she rejects his offer and asks him to take things slow. Steve then questions her trust in him, to which she replies, "I trust everyone. It's the devil inside them, I don't trust them." Her father always used this phrase, and Steve was familiar with it. He told her he knew someone who had said the same thing to him. Suddenly, Steve grabs Stella's hand, and the team enters the restaurant. When Steve informs Stella about her father's death, she is shocked and tries to fight him, but Rob stops her. Steve boasts about his security system and how hard the team will crack his safe. Charlie leans across the table and punches him in the face. Later, at the team's hideout, Charlie comforts Stella about the altercation and the emotions that Steve's presence has stirred up in her. Meanwhile, Lal delivers news that Steve plans to transport the gold to Mexico. Although the team is disappointed, Charlie sees this as an opportunity. He believes that they can intercept the safe before it leaves. Lyle informs them that Steve uses safe trucks and a helicopter to move the gold. Charlie receives a call from Skinny Pete, who asks him about his involvement in Yvonne's murder. Charlie denies any knowledge of the murder but asks for a favor. Charlie and Rob go to a truck store to buy a truck for their heist. While inspecting the new truck, Charlie calls Wrench and requests his assistance again. Wrench expresses his desire to be involved, and Charlie agrees to let him in. Later, Charlie and Lefty work together to place explosives under the bridge, where they plan to divert the truck carrying the gold. Meanwhile, the team observes how Steve intends to transport the gold. They notice he has arranged for 3 safe trucks, most likely as a decoy. Charlie, however, had foreseen this and recommended they concentrate on the helicopter-escorted truck to validate their suspicions. Charlie instructs Lyle to examine the tires of the 3 trucks and pinpoint the one with a substantial load. After his evaluation, Lyle spotted truck 128 transporting the gold. Upon reaching an intersection, the 3 trucks took different paths. While Lyle monitored them using traffic cameras, he also engineered traffic congestion on the route that truck 128 was supposed to take. Meanwhile, Steve was overseeing the situation from his helicopter and understood what was unfolding. He directed his pilot to change course. Eventually, Lyle manipulated traffic lights to redirect truck 128 to the intended path. The team successfully pursued the truck and engaged in a high-speed chase through a crowded street, down a staircase, and a train station to pass under the bridge on time. Lyle had to halt the train using a button to ensure the team could pass. Finally, they arrived under the bridge and awaited Wrench's signal. Once they received it, Lefty triggered the explosives, causing the road to collapse and the truck to plummet into the hole. Wrench acted swiftly, concealing the hole with the press of a button. Steve then ordered his men to search for the truck. Meanwhile, the team encountered a new challenge. Upon accessing the truck, they noticed that the safe inside was not what they had expected, which surprised Stella. Charlie asked her if she could still open it, to which she replied that it was a new model and difficult to breach. Stella began drilling in the safe but soon found it too challenging to continue. She decided to apply her expertise and work meticulously to unlock it. Eventually, she succeeded, and the team cheered as they transferred the gold into the Mini Cooper. Lyle was also thrilled about the gold successfully moving. The team made their escape. Meanwhile, Steve's men are in pursuit, chasing the team down the tunnel. The pursuit intensifies, and Steve's men start firing their weapons. Eventually, the team loses them and makes it onto the highway. However, Steve spots them quickly with his helicopter. He continues pursuing them through an open field and back on the road. At this point, Charlie decides to take a different path, but Steve follows him. Sometime later, Steve and Charlie cross paths, and Charlie narrowly avoids the helicopter's blades. Steve exits the aircraft and hijacks a car from a stranger to pursue Charlie further. Charlie regroups with the team, and they swiftly load the Mini Coopers onto a train car before departing. Meanwhile, Steve doggedly tracks them. Upon spotting the team exiting the train car, Steve approaches Wrench, mistaking him for a worker, and offers him $5,000 in exchange for access to the Mini Coopers. Steve pays Wrench half of the money up front, promising to spend the remaining amount once Wrench takes the money and opens the train car. To Steve's surprise, Charlie is inside. Charlie praises Steve's strategies, but reveals that he now holds the gold, leaving Steve with nothing. Steve draws his gun to shoot Charlie, but it is too late as the Ukrainian mafia gang arrives on the scene. Steve was unfamiliar with the men and thus inquired about their identity. The mafia leader introduced himself as Yevon's cousin. Steve realized he was in trouble and immediately denied any involvement in Yevon's death, asserting that Yevon was already deceased when he encountered him. He attempted to negotiate with the mafia boss, but Charlie had already struck a deal with him. Stella seizes the chance to strike out at Steve, and the mafia promptly removes him. Stella was pleased to have avenged her father's death and embraced Charlie in celebration. Meanwhile, Steve persistently pleaded with the mafia boss, proposing to double Charlie's offer, but his efforts proved futile. Finally, Charlie and the team continued to revel in their triumph as they boarded the train to commence their journey. Thank you for watching. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.